Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Today's Thursday, and all of our guests are brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Ron Toigo is going to join us from the Giants in the next hour. Giants return to the LEC Friday, November 18th to take on Kamloops for White Spot Legends Weekend. Rick will be there to help celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Canada-Russia Summit Series in 1972. The Giants will be wearing Team Canada jerseys, replicas of the one worn in the series. The old sunburst maple leaf, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I know you don't care about history, Ryan,
No,
but some people do. There will also be 4 members of the 72 Canadian team at that game. Yvonne Cornwallier, Dennis Hull, Pete Mahovlich, and Dale Talent. Yes, Dale was a member of that 72 team as a youngster, the Vancouver Canucks.
Member of the Canucks right now.
Senior advisor.
That's right.
Get all of your ticket packages and info at vancouvergiants.com. /tickets. A lot of people taking shots at me saying in the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox saying, when did Trevor Linden wear 14? You can look it up.
Yeah.
He wore 14 with the Montreal Canadiens.
That's right.
16, of course, retired. It's a dual ceremony or a dual retirement. Elmer Locke and Henri the Pocket Rocket Richard. As we move on now. Enough about Montreal Canadiens numbers. To Farhan Lalji from TSN. How are you, sir?
Good, buddy. I'm excited to see those guys from the 72 team as well. I know you covered that series.
For the rest, that is such a cheap shot.
For the rest of us that didn't cover the series, what meant more to you, the actual winning of it or the uniforms? Because you're kind of a uniform guy.
You know what meant most to me and about that Summit Series is that Game 8, September. I got to skip out that day, like everybody did. Everybody missed class, and nobody got in trouble because
I wasn't even born.
I know. Don't even go on about.
No, actually, I was 4.
Yeah, nobody.
I was
cared.
in the documentary. My good friend Ravi Baishwal put together a documentary that aired on CBC, and it's going to have some re-airings as well. But I was involved in the documentary, and it was a really good chance to go back and revisit it because for me, I don't remember a lot about being 4. Mm-hmm. But one thing I do remember talking to my parents about it after the fact was that, we moved to Canada in 1972, right? Mm-hmm. And, my parents, we, in Canada for the first time, really right around the series, right? Because we moved in August and the series primarily was in September. And they knew that there was something different going on that the entire country was excited about. They had no idea what hockey looked like or anything like that, but they knew something was up. And, it captured everybody's imagination at that time. And it's endured 50 years of legacy. And as a city that, has been to 3 Stanley Cup finals and has never won any of them, and we kind of celebrate those legacies, celebrating 50 years of that Summit Series team is pretty important.
Although the Summit Series in Vancouver wasn't exactly a positive experience for people in Vancouver.
Yes.
And I know that because, as you say, I covered it.
You covered it. Yeah. There was a lot of booze, and Phil Esposito was pretty upset. And but if it motivated them and kind of had them on their way, because look, athletic culture was a little different then, and certainly we didn't have the exposure to who our opponents were the way they do now. I mean, heck, my son plays football, and he's buddies with all the guys in the other teams because they all play video games together, and they're all on social media together. Like, it's not like that now, or it wasn't like that then, I should say. So we had no idea who they were, and we thought we were the best hockey country in the world, and it wasn't going to be even difficult. And then you go over there and you realize, what an awakening. You're not even go over there. You play them for the first time, and you realize what an awakening it is, and you can't just smoke cigarettes between periods and figure it's going to be all good.
Mm-hmm. Which players did back in the day. They were the faceless enemy back then, and there was hate. Yeah. And some people thought that that was a better situation. All right, Farhan, present day Canucks. Any theories on what's going on with Thatcher Demko?
No, I like talking to people who are a little closer to it than I. They don't believe it's the surgery he had in the offseason.
Okay.
But, like talking to Kevin Woodley about this, and he says you'd be surprised at the number of goalies, like even Carey Price included, that had that 1 year, right? That everything was going really well, and then for some reason they couldn't rein it in, and, they got down early. They couldn't find their confidence. They couldn't find their games. And, the tough part about Thatcher Demko is when you look at it in most games in terms of goals above expected, like he's not, it hasn't been awful. But there is that one goal in every game that we all look at that this team can't afford. Really, and, for me, Thatcher Demko's play goes back to last season because the last 2 months of the year, he was really, really average, right? Like, he wasn't bad. He was just average when he had previously been incredible. And the Canucks kind of need incredible. And they needed it then and they need it now. And, Spencer Martin wasn't unbelievable 2 nights ago against Ottawa, but in the first 2 periods, he was really good. I mean, certainly he won the Hamonic shot back, and there was one other one in there that he probably questioned, but he got some goal support and he got a few bounces, and Thatcher Demko's not getting any of that as well, so it all compounds. And, I appreciate Bo Horvat's comments last night that he doesn't owe us anything, but I'm telling you, you may not feel like he owes you anything, but don't tell me you don't have that pit in your stomach when that first shot goes in again. Like, that's a bad feeling, especially when it's just kind of an ordinary goal. You need some saves. There's just no way around it. They can't outscore their mistakes on a nightly basis.
All right, let's talk about a winning team in this city, the BC Lions, Western Final, Winnipeg. Weather's going to be a factor. It could be anywhere from -5 to -6. Wind chill, you know what happens in the prairies. It goes up to -15 and real fast. What are the keys for the Lions to win on Sunday, Farhan?
Well, pretty similar to what they were last week, right? They needed to stop the run. And I know that Calgary only ran the ball 10 times, and it wasn't just all because they got behind. They weren't running enough early in the game. And Dave Dickinson talked about how BC did some things structurally that forced them to pull the ball and do different things. I don't care what BC does structurally. Winnipeg is going to attempt to run the football. BC is going to have to be able to stop it. That's it, right? They're going to have to find some ways to protect Nathan Rourke. And on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to have to figure out a way to cover Dalton Schoen. And when I look at Winnipeg's offense, their receiving core is almost as good as BC's, right? Like 1 through 5. And even when Lucky Whitehead's healthy, and they're all healthy for the first time in Winnipeg right now. So Zach Collaros can go to any of them. He's confident going to any of them. But Dalton Schoen's a tough one because he doesn't have to have a lot of catches to make a massive impact on the game. So they've got to find a way, in his case, to keep him in front of them. And especially when Zach Collaros escapes, don't let Dalton Schoen sneak behind you. You've got to make Winnipeg work for their points because they're capable of doing it.
Nathan Rourke, what did you like about him in the Calgary game? What were some of the things you can tell that he is still hurting from that foot?
Well, he said afterwards that his foot was really, really swollen because he was asking it to do more than he had at any point since the surgery. And then over the 3 days since yesterday's practice, between the game and the practice, the swelling subsided. And that's going to happen again. And they're not giving him any injections. They're not trying to pain manage it. They want to know if there's a problem, right? He has x-rays every Monday, including this past Monday. Everything came back fine. So it's just going to be his ability to suck it up. And maybe in the cold weather, it numbs it a little bit, and maybe that helps, right? But I liked everything Nathan Rourke did in that game. Physically, I like what he did. Just mentally, in terms of not thinking about it, we could tell he was limping. We could tell he was feeling it.
Yes.
He never got treatment. He never got treatment on the sidelines. Nobody looked at it. When he was on the bench looking at the iPad, he had his foot up, which he did the previous week as well. That's part of the protocol. That's it. Dr. McCormick didn't go talk to him. When Dr. Boyer arrived, he was a surgeon. He didn't go spend time with him between series and doing all of that stuff. He was focused on football and the task at hand. So, he's going to need to do that again. He's going to get hit like he did in the second quarter against Calgary. He's going to get hit again. And BC's going to have to do something incredible because the one thing with Winnipeg, guys, Winnipeg can win with their B game. They've shown it a lot this season. They showed it in last year's Western Final, and they turned the ball over 5 times. They can win with their B game, and BC's going to have their A game and then some.
Farhan, before we go, over 30,000 at BC Place. Also, very, very impressive television numbers on TSN. What does that say about the CFL right now?
Well, it's a good thing, right? I mean, overall, it's been a positive season on so many levels, right? Scoring has been up, and some of the changes they made in the offseason, tweaking the rules, along with the fact that it was a second year back. I think all those things played a part in it. Nathan Rourke in his first 8 games certainly played a part in it. There was a lot to like about the Canadian Football League this season. Certainly a bounce back from what wasn't entertaining football a year ago, and hopefully we can continue that here in the Western Final. But 30,000 is great, and it was important that they won. And I say that because we know we've been around for a while. I mean, I can remember it. It's like seared in my memory Murray Pezim, when he owned the Lions, bringing out a wheelbarrow of loonies, which were to symbolize gold in Louis Passaglia's weight. And they would do all of these things to hype up these games. And, every year we've had it where there's been one game where there's been a bit of an uptick, and the Lions lay an egg.
Yes.
For whatever reason. Hasn't always been reflective of the year, but that one game they lay an egg. Well, they didn't lay an egg in this game. They didn't lay an egg on opening night when One Republic and 34,000 was here. So everything Amar Doman's doing slowly paying off. So it was good for the franchise, good for the league. Everybody outside of Calgary was cheering for BC because of Rourke and just the resurgence in the franchise. So good for the league, good for the team.
Love the mug. Thanks for this, Farhan. Have a great weekend.
Yep, there you go.
Long weekend. Thanks,
See you guys.
Farhan Lalji, Bombers and Lions on Sunday.